single dad drove his drunk boss home. The question she asked in the morning left him frozen. "Do you regret it?" Iris asked, the morning sunlight illuminating her face as she stood in her kitchen, coffee mug trembling slightly in her hand. Daniel Moore felt his entire body freeze. The question hung in the air between them, two strangers connected by one night of unexpected vulnerability. Outside, reporters were already gathering. His phone wouldn't stop vibrating with messages from his employer. His daughter was waiting at home with questions he couldn't answer. His entire life was unraveling because of one choice. How could he answer? That single decision to drive his drunk boss home and stay to ensure her safety had just cost him his job, his reputation, and possibly his ability to provide for his 6-year-old daughter. Yet looking at Iris Blackwell, the formidable CEO now standing barefoot in her kitchen, stripped of her corporate armor, Daniel knew there was only one honest answer. Have you ever made a choice that seemed small in the moment, but changed the course of your entire life? Sometimes the most human decisions carry the heaviest consequences. Welcome to Mr. Stephen Love Stories, where we explore the moments that define us. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button to join our community of storytellers and story lovers. This channel grows because of viewers like you. Now, let's dive into a tale about integrity, unexpected connections, and the courage to stand in your truth when the world misunderstands your intentions. Daniel Moore's day always began the same way, at 5:30 a.m., precisely 30 minutes before Maya would wake. These precious moments were his alone, time to breathe before becoming the father, the provider, the answerer of endless, why questions. His modest apartment in the eastern part of Cresthaven was bathed in pre-dawn blue as he moved through his routine with quiet efficiency. Coffee first, always. Then a quick shower, the whispered hiss of water the only sound disturbing the morning stillness. By 5:55, he was dressed in the simple black suit that served as his uniform for Elite Transit Services, the private driving company that had become his financial lifeline after everything fell apart 3 years ago. Daniel straightened his tie in the hallway mirror, noticing new lines around his eyes. At 43, grief and responsibility had aged him beyond his years. The gentle padding of bare feet on hardwood broke his reflection. Maya stood in her firefly pajamas, wild curls framing her sleepy face. "You're up early, Firefly," Daniel said, his expression softening as he crouched to her level. "I heard you," she replied simply, rubbing one eye with a small fist. At 6, Maya observed everything with the quiet intensity she'd inherited from her mother. "Come on, back to bed for a little while," he murmured, scooping her up. She smelled of baby shampoo and the faint scent of crayons that seemed permanently embedded in her skin. "The sun's not even awake yet." "The sun doesn't sleep, Daddy," Maya corrected, her head resting against his shoulder. "It just goes to visit other people." Daniel smiled against her hair. "Smart girl. Just like your mom." The mention of Sarah didn't sting as much as it once had. 3 years since cancer had taken her, leaving Daniel with their 3-year-old daughter and a mountain of medical debt that had forced him to sell their house, leave his engineering career, and rebuild from scratch. After tucking Maya back in, Daniel made her lunch, peanut butter sandwich cut into stars, apple slices, and a note with a simple drawing of a firefly. Their private signal that meant, "I love you." He placed it in her ladybug lunchbox before preparing breakfast. By 6:45, Maya was dressed in her school uniform, curls tamed into 2 puffs secured with yellow ribbons, chattering about the class pet hamster as she ate her cereal. "And Mrs. Rodriguez says I can feed him next because my name is next on the chart, and his name is Mr. Whiskers, which is funny because he doesn't even have whiskers." "Daddy, not really. They're more like tiny hairs." Daniel listened, making appropriate noises of interest as he checked his phone. A notification from Elite Transit made his stomach tighten. Special assignment. Helix Dominion Group CEO. Pickup 1900 hours. Formal event. His thumb hovered over the decline button. He was scheduled to be off tonight. Maya's art class had its exhibition, and he'd promised to attend. But the attached fare estimate made him pause. The amount would cover 2 months of Maya's art classes, with enough left over to put toward the perpetually mounting bills. "Daddy, you're not listening." Maya's accusatory tone pulled him back. "Sorry, Firefly. Work message. Tell me again about Mr. Whiskers. As Maya launched back into her hamster saga, Daniel sent a quick text to Aunt Lynn next door. The 70-something woman wasn't actually their aunt, but the retired kindergarten teacher had adopted them when they moved into the building, becoming the grandmotherly figure Maya needed and the support system Daniel couldn't do without. Exhibition tonight. Last-minute work assignment. Could you take Maya, and I'll meet you there if I finish in time? The reply came almost instantly. Of course. We'll save you a seat. Daniel sighed, accepting the Helix assignment with a quick tap. Another promise to Maya that would be half-kept at best. The weight of constant compromise pressed down on him as he helped Maya pack her backpack. Ready for school, Firefly? He asked, pushing away the guilt. Ready. She bounced toward the door, then stopped suddenly. Wait. My fireflies. She raced back to her room, returning with a folder clutched carefully in her small hands. Inside were her latest drawings, dozens of fireflies illuminating dark forests with impossibly bright yellow light. Don't want to forget these. Ms. Amara said we're hanging them up today. Daniel smiled, taking her hand as they left the apartment. The world needs more light, doesn't it? That's why fireflies glow, Daddy. Maya explained with the patient tone of someone stating the obvious. So nobody has to be scared of the dark. If only adult fears could be so easily banished, Daniel thought as they headed down the stairs to begin another day of barely keeping their world intact. Maya's school drop-off was the usual organized chaos of parents, children, and teachers navigating the morning rush. Daniel knelt for his goodbye hug, inhaling the scent of Maya's shampoo one last time. Aunt Lynn will pick you up and take you to your art exhibition. I'll try my very best to meet you there, okay? Maya's face fell slightly, but she nodded with the resigned understanding of a child who had learned early that adult promises came with invisible asterisks. It's okay, Daddy. You have to work. Her small hand patted his cheek in a gesture so maternal it made his heart ache. I'll save you some cookies. They always have cookies at exhibitions. Daniel watched her disappear into the building, her yellow backpack bouncing slightly with each step. The guilt was a familiar companion now, sitting heavily beside him as he drove to his small office space at Elite Transit headquarters to handle administrative work before his evening assignment. Elite Transit Services occupied the third floor of a nondescript building in downtown Cresthaven. As Daniel settled at his desk, his supervisor, Garrett, approached with a coffee in hand. Morning, Moore. Saw you accepted the Blackwell assignment. Daniel nodded, powering up his computer. The overtime helps. Garrett leaned against the desk, lowering his voice. Just a heads up, she has a reputation. Brilliant, but demanding. The last driver who took her claimed she made 3 different international deals during a 20-minute ride, never once acknowledging he existed. I've driven difficult executives before, Daniel replied, scrolling through emails. Not like Iris Blackwell, Garrett insisted. She built Helix from nothing, but word is the board's trying to edge her out. She's been unpredictable lately. Noted. Daniel's tone made it clear he wasn't interested in gossip. He'd learned long ago that clients deserve privacy, regardless of their status. Garrett shrugged. Your call. Car's being detailed now, the Bentley. Dress code is full formal, standard NDA applies. Pick up at her office, drop at Morewood Center, wait for event conclusion, return to origin. Simple. Simple, yes. But as Daniel would discover, nothing about Iris Blackwell would prove simple at all. The rain started at dusk, a fine mist that gradually intensified into sheets of water battering the Bentley's windows as Daniel navigated through evening traffic toward the gleaming Helix Dominion headquarters. The building rose like a twisted glass sculpture against the darkening sky, illuminated dramatically against the storm clouds. Daniel checked his watch, 18:45. 15 minutes early, as was his professional standard. He pulled into the designated executive pickup area, shut off the engine, and waited. Through the rain-streaked windows, he watched employees hurrying out, shoulders hunched against the downpour. At precisely 1900 hours, the building's main doors opened, and a small security detail emerged, followed by a woman whose presence seemed to command even the rain to pause. Iris Blackwell walked with deliberate confidence, her slight frame wrapped in a tailored black evening gown partially concealed by a charcoal overcoat. Her security team flanked her as Daniel stepped out with an umbrella, opening the rear door. Up close, Iris Blackwell was not what he expected. News photographs and business magazines portrayed her as intimidating, severe. The woman who slipped into his car was certainly composed, but underneath the polished exterior, Daniel immediately recognized something else: bone-deep exhaustion. "Good evening, Ms. Blackwell," he said, closing the door once she was settled. When he took his place behind the wheel, she was already on her phone, fingers flying over the screen. "The Morewood Center," she directed without looking up, her voice crisp and controlled. "Yes, ma'am. With the current weather, we're looking at approximately 30 minutes. She made a small sound of acknowledgement, but offered nothing more. Daniel engaged the privacy partition halfway, enough to give her space while maintaining the ability to communicate if needed. As they pulled away from the curb, Daniel caught glimpses of her in the rearview mirror. In the dim light of the car, with her guard momentarily lowered, Iris Blackwell looked smaller somehow. Her shoulders had lost some of their rigid posture, and she leaned back against the seat, eyes closed briefly before her phone rang. "Blackwell," she answered, tension immediately returning to her voice. "No, that's unacceptable, Richard. The Mersenne acquisition is non-negotiable." Daniel kept his focus on the road, but years of driving executives had trained his ears to tune in to conversations happening in his back seat. Corporate drama was usually background noise to him, but something in Iris's tone caught his attention, a subtle note of desperation beneath the authority. "The board doesn't make this decision. I do." Her voice hardened. "I built this company while half of them were still trading penny stocks." The conversation continued, growing increasingly tense. Through occasional glances in the mirror, Daniel watched as Iris's composed facade began to fracture. 2 more calls followed, each one seeming to drain more of her energy. They were approaching the downtown arts district when her final call ended. The silence that followed felt heavy, charged with unspoken frustration. "Everything all right, Miss Blackwell?" Daniel asked, immediately regretting the intrusion into her privacy. To his surprise, she answered, "No, Mr." She paused, realizing she didn't know his name. "Moore? Daniel Moore." "No, Mr. Moore, everything is not all right." Her laugh held no humor. "But that's hardly your concern, is it?" The rain intensified, drumming against the roof as traffic slowed to a crawl. Red taillights reflected off wet pavement, creating rivers of crimson light flowing through the city streets. Daniel checked the time. At this rate, he would definitely miss Maya's exhibition. Another promise broken. His grip tightened on the steering wheel. "Actually, could you?" Iris's voice came softly from the back seat. "Could you not take me to the Morewood Center just yet? Somewhere quiet instead." Daniel hesitated. Company protocol strictly prohibited deviation from the assigned route without prior authorization. His job, the one keeping a roof over Maya's head, depended on following rules. "Ms. Blackwell, I'm not sure. Please." That single word, barely audible, stripped of authority, changed everything. In that moment, she wasn't the untouchable CEO of a global corporation, just a woman exhausted by performance. Daniel made a decision. "I know a place." Hey there, beautiful people. If you're enjoying this story so far, please hit that subscribe button to join our Mr. Steven Love Stories family. We're growing every day because of viewers like you. Drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. I'd love to know which corner of the world you're connecting with us from. Now let's get back to Daniel and Iris's unexpected evening. Daniel navigated away from the main thoroughfares, taking a winding route that eventually led them to Riverside Park. During daylight hours, the area would be filled with families and joggers. Now, in the pouring rain, it was deserted, just an empty parking area overlooking the water, city lights shimmering on the river's surface below. He pulled into a spot beneath a row of dripping trees that provided some shelter from the downpour. The engine hummed quietly as raindrops created hypnotic patterns on the windows, transforming the car into an island of stillness amid the storm. "We're here," Daniel said unnecessarily, turning slightly in his seat. Iris was staring out the window, her profile illuminated by the distant city lights. Without looking at him, she reached into her evening bag and removed a small silver flask. "Do you judge me for this?" she asked, unscrewing the cap and taking a long sip. Daniel considered his response carefully. "Not my place to judge anyone." She laughed, a sound both bitter and genuine. "Everyone judges. especially those claiming they don't. Then I've had enough reasons to be judged myself. Something in his tone made her study him more carefully. The composed businessman in the driver's seat with his perfect posture and respectful demeanor suddenly seemed more complex than she'd initially assumed. They want me out, Iris said after another sip from her flask. 15 years building Helix from nothing, and now I'm inconvenient. Companies forget their creators, Daniel offered quietly. Voice of experience? Different scale. I designed security systems before my daughter was born. Then my wife got sick. The company moved on while I cared for her. Iris nodded, surprising him with her sudden focus. And now you drive executives who don't know half what you do about their systems. Life takes unexpected turns. The rain drummed harder, creating a cocoon of white noise around them. In this strange, suspended moment, two strangers in a car overlooking the city, something shifted. The barriers of status and circumstance seemed less substantial. My husband left 6 years ago, Iris said suddenly. Said he didn't sign up to be married to my job. Maybe he was right. She took another drink. The irony is, I built this company so I'd never be dependent on anyone. Now the board thinks I'm the one who's expendable. What will you do? Daniel asked. Fight. It's what I've always done. She sighed, leaning her head back against the seat. But tonight, I was supposed to charm potential investors at a gala where half the attendees are already aligned with the board members who want me gone. Daniel thought about his own small battles, the constant struggle to provide for Maya, to be both mother and father, to keep his promise to Sarah that their daughter would never lack for love or opportunity. My daughter, Maya, has an art exhibition tonight, he found himself saying. She's 6, obsessed with drawing fireflies. Her mother, my wife, used to take her to catch them in the summer. You're missing it to drive me around, Iris observed, her gaze sharpening despite the alcohol. I apologize for that. It's the job. Why fireflies? She asked unexpectedly. Daniel smiled slightly, thinking of Maya. After her mom died, Maya was afraid of the dark. She said fireflies make the darkness less scary because they bring their own light with them. Smart kid, Iris murmured. Like her mother. They fell silent again, the conversation having ventured into unexpectedly personal territory. Daniel checked his watch. Maya's exhibition would be starting now. He pictured her searching the room for him, Aunt Lynn making excuses for his absence. You should be there, Iris said, as if reading his thoughts. I'll make it up to her. That's what we tell ourselves, she replied, a note of resignation in her voice. But some things can't be made up. As they sat in contemplative silence, Daniel noticed Iris's posture gradually relax, her eyes becoming slightly unfocused as the alcohol took effect. She'd been sipping steadily from her flask, and her words had begun to slur slightly at the edges. Ms. Blackwell, you shouldn't go to that function in this state. Let me take you home. Vultures waiting there too, she murmured, eyelids heavy. Reporters. Always watching. Daniel made a decision that would change everything. My company requires me to ensure clients' safety. You need rest. He started the engine and pulled away from the park, heading toward the address listed in the client file. The exclusive Lakeside Heights neighborhood was only 15 minutes away, but in that time, Iris had grown increasingly quiet, her head resting against the window. When they arrived at the sleek modernist structure overlooking the water, the security guard recognized her immediately, eyeing Daniel with obvious suspicion. Ms. Blackwell had a difficult evening, Daniel explained, helping her from the car. She needs assistance inside. Half conscious, Iris fumbled with her key card at the private elevator. Stay close, she whispered as they entered. Just in case. The elevator opened directly into her penthouse, a striking space of glass and steel with panoramic views of the rain-lashed city. Despite its architectural beauty, Daniel was struck by how impersonal it felt. No photos, no mementos. Just expensive, curated art and furniture that could have been from a design magazine. He helped her to the sofa, found water and aspirin in the kitchen, and placed them on the coffee table before her. Every professional instinct told him to leave, protocol demanded it. But something in her vulnerable state kept him there. I should go, he said, even as he recognized she was in no condition to be left alone. Please, she murmured, eyes already closing. Just until I fall asleep. Board members might call. Need someone trustworthy nearby. Daniel hesitated, then called Aunt Lynn, explained the situation, asked her to stay with Maya overnight. Then he settled in the guest wing across the hall, door open to hear if Iris needed help during the night. His phone buzzed with a text from Lynn, a photo of Maya proudly standing beside her displayed artwork, fireflies illuminating a dark forest. She missed you, but understood. She's staying with me tonight. Be safe, Lynn wrote. Daniel stared at the image of his daughter's drawings, bright spots of light against darkness, and felt a complicated mixture of pride and regret. The sacrifices seemed endless, the rewards too few and far between. Yet Maya continued to create beauty, to believe in light. He checked on Iris one last time, finding her asleep on the sofa. He carefully placed a throw blanket over her and returned to the guest room, setting an alarm for early morning. Whatever tomorrow brought, he would face it knowing he'd done what he believed was right. Morning arrived with deceptive tranquility. Daniel woke at first light, momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar surroundings before remembering where he was and why. The events of the previous night came rushing back, along with an urgent need to check on Iris and then get home to Maya. He found Iris in the kitchen, composed in casual clothes, coffee brewing. The transformation was remarkable. Barely a trace remained of the vulnerable woman from the night before. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, her face bare of makeup, yet she radiated the same quiet authority she possessed in business settings. "Good morning," she said, sliding a mug of coffee across the counter toward him. "I apologize for last night. It was unprofessional of me." "No apology necessary," Daniel replied, accepting the coffee gratefully. "Are you feeling better?" Before she could answer, her phone erupted with notifications. Then his. A cascade of alerts, messages, and calls suddenly flooding both their devices simultaneously. With a growing sense of dread, Daniel unlocked his screen to find dozens of missed calls from Garrett, along with a text message containing a link and the words "Call me immediately." The link opened to show a grainy but unmistakable paparazzi photo. Daniel helping Iris into her building, his arms supportively around her waist, her body leaning into his. The headline above screamed innuendo. Helix CEO's late-night companion. Business or pleasure? Daniel looked up to find Iris staring at her own phone, her expression unreadable. "I'm sorry," she whispered, fingers white-knuckled around her device. "This is my fault." Daniel's phone rang, Garrett again. This time he answered. "More? What the hell were you thinking?" his supervisor demanded without preamble. "The company's being flooded with media calls." Helix's PR department just issued a statement distancing themselves from unprofessional conduct, without naming names, but everyone knows who they mean. Daniel's stomach dropped. "Garrett, nothing inappropriate. Save it. You're suspended pending investigation. Return the vehicle to headquarters today." The call ended abruptly. Suspended. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Daniel thought of Maya, of mortgage payments, of explanations he'd need to give his 6-year-old about why classmates might ask strange questions. "I'll fix this," Iris said, her voice taking on the decisive tone he imagined she used in boardrooms. "My PR team will issue a statement immediately." "No," Daniel said, surprising himself with his certainty. "That might help me, but it could hurt your position with the board. They're already looking for reasons to remove you." Their eyes met in silent understanding. This was bigger than either of them had anticipated. "Go," Iris finally said, her expression softening. "Protect your daughter. I'll handle this my way." Daniel nodded, gathering his things. As he prepared to leave, Iris stopped him with a light touch on his arm. "Thank you," she said simply. "For last night. For seeing me as a person, not just a CEO." Daniel drove home in stunned silence, the company car feeling suddenly foreign. By the time he reached his apartment building, his phone had died from the constant barrage of notifications. He found Aunt Lynn waiting in the hallway, newspaper in hand. "Maya's still asleep," she said by way of greeting. "She had a big night. Won a ribbon for her firefly art." Daniel's heart clenched. Another moment missed. Another memory he couldn't reclaim. "Lynn, there's something." "I know," she interrupted, holding up the newspaper. The same photo, slightly different headline. Helix CEO's midnight rendezvous with driver. "It's not what it looks like," Daniel began. Lynn waved away his explanation. "You don't owe me any explanations, Daniel. I know you. You did the right thing, helping someone in need. Her wise eyes held his. Don't run from the truth. Maya needs to see her father stand tall, especially when it's difficult. Hello again, wonderful viewers. I hope you're enjoying the journey with Daniel and Iris. If you're finding this story meaningful, please hit that like button and subscribe to Mr. Stephen Love Stories for more content that touches the heart. I'd love to know your thoughts on Daniel's dilemma. Would you have made the same choice? Comment below with where you're watching from and your thoughts. Now, let's continue with our story as Daniel faces the fallout of his decision. The truth, as Daniel discovered over the next few days, proved insufficient against the tidal wave of speculation. His voicemail filled with requests for interviews that he promptly deleted. Several neighbors gave him curious looks in the hallway. Two mothers at Maya's school visibly whispered when he arrived for pickup. The suspension from Elite Transit had moved from pending investigation to indefinite after Helix Dominion's PR team released another statement suggesting the company would review its vendor relationships to ensure all parties maintain the highest professional standards. Without saying it directly, they had effectively ended Daniel's employment. Maya, perceptive as always, noticed the change immediately. "Why aren't you wearing your work clothes, Daddy?" she asked on the third morning of his suspension. "I'm taking some time off," Daniel replied, trying to keep his tone light as he prepared her breakfast. "Because of the lady in the picture? My friend Zoe's mom showed her on her phone. She said you were in trouble." Daniel froze, the cereal box suspended over Maya's bowl. This was the moment he had dreaded. His daughter confronted with adult complications she couldn't possibly understand. He sat down across from her, meeting her curious gaze directly. "The lady's name is Ms. Blackwell. She wasn't feeling well, and I helped her get home safely. That's my job, was my job, to make sure clients are safe." "Then why are you in trouble?" Maya's brow furrowed with the particular indignation 6-year-olds reserve for perceived injustice. "Sometimes people see a picture and make up a story that isn't true," Daniel explained carefully. "They don't know what really happened, but they guess, and their guesses can hurt people." Maya considered this, spoon hovering thoughtfully over her cereal. Like when Ms. Rodriguez thought Cole took the class hamster home, but really Mr. Whiskers was hiding in the book corner? Daniel smiled despite himself. "Something like that. You should tell them the truth, Daddy. Like Cole did." If only adult problems could be solved with the straightforward clarity of a child's logic, Daniel thought. The financial reality of his situation became increasingly dire as days passed. His savings, already modest, would cover perhaps 2 months of expenses if he was extremely careful. Job applications yielded nothing but automated responses. His security engineering credentials were outdated after 3 years away from the field, and his recent notoriety made even service jobs hesitant to consider his application. Daniel was preparing Maya's lunch when breaking news alerts flooded his newly charged phone. Iris Blackwell was holding an unscheduled press conference. He turned on the small television in the kitchen just as the broadcast began. Iris stood at a podium, looking nothing like the vulnerable woman from that rainy night. She wore a simple navy dress, her hair pulled back severely, her expression composed but determined. No notes, no teleprompter. Just Iris facing a room full of reporters alone. "Good morning," she began, her voice steady. "I've called this press conference to address the speculation surrounding events last week. Typically, Helix Dominion's policy is to avoid commenting on personal matters. Today, I am speaking not as CEO, but as someone who believes in setting the record straight." Daniel held his breath, aware that Maya had abandoned her coloring to watch the screen with curious interest. "Last week, a private transportation employee acted with extraordinary compassion toward me during a personal crisis. Daniel Moore showed integrity when I was vulnerable, professionalism when I was not. The speculation surrounding that night reflects everything wrong with our corporate culture, where kindness is suspect and humanity secondary to appearance." The camera panned to show board members shifting uncomfortably in their seats. "Mr. Moore has lost his job for choosing decency over protocol. If that's our standard, I question what we've become. Not just as a company, but as a society," she continued, voice unwavering despite visible discomfort. "For 15 years, I've built Helix Dominion on principles of innovation and integrity. Today, I'm announcing a new initiative within our corporate structure, a human ethics and accountability division that will ensure our business practices reflect our highest values, not just our bottom line. The press erupted with questions, but Iris held up a hand. That's all for today. Thank you. Daniel stared at the screen long after she'd left the podium, processing what had just happened. Beside him, Maya tugged his sleeve. Daddy, that's the lady you helped. Yes, Firefly. She seems nice, Maya declared with childlike certainty. Not sick anymore. Daniel smiled, ruffling her curls. People can be many things at once, sweetheart. Strong and vulnerable. Powerful and scared. Just like your fireflies, small but bright. Maya nodded sagely, returning to her coloring. Everyone needs help sometimes. Helix stock dipped immediately following Iris's press conference. Board members issued conflicting statements, some supporting her stance, others subtly questioning her judgment. But something had broken open in the conversation, something more important than market value. Social media, which had initially amplified the scandal, now filled with discussions about corporate humanity, the demands placed on leaders, and the cost of choosing integrity over image. The hashtag Stand with Daniel began trending, with stories of other workers punished for making humane choices in rigid systems. 3 weeks after the press conference, Daniel received an unexpected call from an unknown number. Mr. Moore? This is Eliza Wong from Helix Dominion's Human Resources Department. Do you have a moment to talk? Daniel stepped onto the apartment's small balcony, closing the door behind him. Yes, go ahead. MS. Blackwell is establishing the Human Ethics and Accountability Division she mentioned at the press conference, the voice explained. Given your systems engineering background and recent demonstration of values, she believes you'd be an ideal candidate to help develop its framework. Daniel's initial reaction was disbelief, followed by wariness. I'm not sure I understand. It would be a leadership position, Mr. Moore. Your technical expertise in systems design, combined with your evident personal integrity, makes you uniquely qualified to help build protocols that balance efficiency with humanity. Daniel's mind raced. A leadership position at Helix Dominion would solve his financial problems instantly. It would utilize his engineering background, offer stability for Maya's future. Yet something held him back. That's a generous offer, Ms. Wong, but I have a daughter to consider. Stability matters to us. I can't jump from one uncertain situation to another. Ms. Blackwell anticipated your concern, Eliza replied smoothly. She's authorized me to offer a 2-year guaranteed contract with options for renewal and a compensation package that reflects your experience and the position's importance. I'll need time to think about it, Daniel said, watching through the glass door as Maya arranged her drawings on the kitchen table, and to discuss details. Of course. We'll send over the formal offer for your review. Ms. Blackwell would like to meet with you personally if you're interested in moving forward. That evening, after dinner, Maya scattered her drawings across their kitchen table, dozens of fireflies illuminating dark forest scenes. Daniel sat beside her, admiring her work while his mind circled the unexpected job offer. These are beautiful, Firefly. You're getting even better at drawing the light. Maya beamed at the praise, carefully selecting another crayon. Ms. Amara says I have distinct artistic vision. That means I draw different than other kids. It's a good thing to be different, Daniel assured her. Daddy. Maya looked up suddenly, her expression serious. Do fireflies stop glowing when it's really, really dark? The question caught him off guard with its inadvertent parallel to his current circumstances. No, sweetheart, he answered, studying her earnest face. That's exactly when they shine brightest. Maya nodded, satisfied with his answer, and returned to her drawing. But the question lingered in Daniel's mind throughout the evening and into the night. Long after Maya was asleep, he sat at the kitchen table, reviewing the formal offer from Helix Dominion. The terms were more than generous. The salary 3 times what he'd made as a driver, with benefits that would provide Maya with security he'd only dreamed of offering her. Yet concerns remained. Would the position demand hours that took him away from Maya even more? Was this offer motivated by guilt rather than genuine recognition of his abilities? And most importantly, could he trust that the company's newfound commitment to ethics would withstand market pressures? The next morning, Daniel called the number provided in the offer letter. Ms. Wong? This is Daniel Moore. I'd like to discuss the position, but I have some conditions. He outlined his terms. Part-time to start, with flexible hours built around Maya's school schedule. Work-from-home options for days when Maya might need him. A clear understanding that family emergencies would take priority. And a direct role in shaping the division's approach to supporting employees with caregiving responsibilities. To his surprise, there was no pushback. Ms. Blackwell anticipated most of these requests. She's already approved the flexibility you've outlined, Mr. Moore. When can you come in to discuss next steps? Hey everyone, thanks for staying with us through Daniel and Iris's journey. If you're enjoying this story of integrity and unexpected connection, please show your support by hitting that like button and subscribing to Mr. Stephen Love Stories. Your engagement helps our channel grow. I'd love to know where in the world you're watching from. Drop a comment below sharing your location and thoughts on the story so far. Now, let's see how Daniel and Iris move forward. The Helix Dominion headquarters felt different in daylight. Without rain obscuring the view, the glass structure captured sunlight, transforming what had seemed coldly imposing into something almost ethereal. Daniel, dressed in his best suit, not his driver's uniform, but the one reserved for special occasions, felt oddly calm as he passed through security and was escorted to the executive floor. Eliza Wong met him at the elevator, a poised woman in her 50s with kind eyes that contradicted her efficient demeanor. Mr. Moore, welcome to Helix. Ms. Blackwell is looking forward to meeting with you properly. She led him through a series of open workspaces to a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows. Unlike the stark minimalism Daniel had expected, Iris Blackwell's office contained surprising touches of warmth, shelves of well-read books, a collection of geological specimens displayed on a side table, and a wall dedicated to framed photographs of Helix's earliest days. Iris rose from behind her desk when they entered, extending her hand with a smile that transformed her face. Mr. Moore, thank you for coming. Ms. Blackwell. They shook hands, both acutely aware of how different this meeting was from their last encounter. Please sit. She gestured to a small seating area by the windows. Would you like coffee? Once they were settled with steaming mugs, Eliza discreetly withdrew, leaving them alone. For a moment, neither spoke, the strange circumstances of their reacquaintance hanging between them. Iris broke the silence first. I want to thank you properly, Mr. Moore. Not just for that night, but for your discretion afterward. You could have given interviews, told your side of the story. You didn't. Wouldn't have helped either of us, Daniel replied simply. She studied him over the rim of her coffee cup. You're an unusual man, Daniel Moore. Most people would have prioritized defending themselves. I prioritize my daughter. Iris nodded, setting down her mug. Yes, Maya. How is she handling all this? The question surprised him with its genuine concern. She's resilient. Children often are. But I appreciate you asking. I meant what I said at the press conference. Iris continued, her expression serious. And what followed wasn't just damage control. This company has lost sight of what matters. Profit over people. Image over substance. I built Helix to be different. And now you want to course correct, Daniel observed. With your help. She leaned forward slightly. You understand systems, Mr. Moore, how they're designed, where they're vulnerable, how they can be improved. What we need isn't just an ethics statement framed on a wall. We need structural change. Why me? The question that had been nagging at him finally emerged. There must be dozens of qualified systems engineers who haven't caused a public relations crisis for your company. Iris's laugh was unexpected, warm, and genuine. That's precisely why. You made a choice that night based on what was right, not what was expedient. And you did it knowing there could be consequences. She stood, walking to the window. The board wants me out, Daniel. They have for months. That night, our conversation in the rain, it clarified something for me. I've been fighting to hold on to power when I should have been fighting to redirect it. This new division is my last major initiative as CEO. You're stepping down? Daniel couldn't hide his surprise. Transitioning, she corrected. To chairperson of the board. Different role, different focus. Less day-to-day management, more long-term vision. She turned back to face him. The ethics division is my legacy project. I need someone who understands both technical systems and human values to build it right. The conversation shifted to specifics, structure, reporting lines, objectives. Daniel found himself engaged in a way he hadn't been since leaving engineering, offering insights that Iris received with thoughtful consideration. Their different perspectives created a natural dialogue, each building on the other's ideas. By the time they concluded, 2 hours had passed unnoticed. As Daniel prepared to leave, Iris walked him to the elevator. "I understand your conditions," she said. "Family first. Flexible hours. We can make it work." She paused, then added more softly, "And perhaps someday I could meet Maya? I'd like to see these famous firefly drawings." Daniel considered the request, finding no reason to refuse. "She'd like that, I think." The following week, Daniel began his new role at Helix Dominion. The transition wasn't without challenges. Corporate culture was foreign territory after years of independent work, and some employees viewed him with lingering suspicion. But the system's work engaged his mind in ways he had missed, and the ethical dimensions of the project connected to something deeper in his character. True to her word, Iris ensured his schedule accommodated Maya's needs. He worked from home 2 days a week and left early on days when Maya had art class. For the first time since Sarah's death, Daniel felt the scattered pieces of his life beginning to align into something that resembled balance. 1 month into his new position, Daniel received a text from Iris. "Community Night Festival at Riverside Park this Saturday. Paper lanterns, music, food trucks. Would Maya like to go?" No pressure. Daniel showed the message to Maya, who was immediately enthusiastic about the paper lanterns. "They're like big fireflies, Daddy. Can we go? Please." That Saturday evening, they met Iris at the festival entrance. She looked different outside the corporate setting, dressed in jeans and a simple sweater, hair loose around her shoulders. Maya studied her curiously, clutching her folder of drawings. "Hello, Maya," Iris said, crouching to the girl's level. "Your dad has told me a lot about you and your amazing art." "I'm Iris. Are you the lady from TV? The one Daddy helped?" Daniel tensed slightly, but Iris answered without hesitation. "Yes, I am. Your dad was very kind to me when I needed help." Maya considered this, then held out her folder. "Do you want to see my fireflies?" The ice broken, they walked through the festival together, Maya between them, chattering about her drawings and school projects. They stopped at food trucks for dinner, listened to local musicians, and watched street performers who made Maya laugh with their antics. As darkness fell, the festival's main event began, the release of paper lanterns over the river. Volunteers distributed the delicate paper structures, each containing a small flame that would lift it into the night sky. "They're like your fireflies, Daddy," Maya exclaimed, carefully holding her lantern. "They make their own light in the dark." Daniel helped her prepare her lantern, aware of Iris watching them with a soft expression he couldn't quite interpret. When the signal came, hundreds of people released their lanterns simultaneously, creating a river of light ascending into the darkness. Maya's delight was infectious, her small face illuminated by wonder as she watched her lantern join the others. Standing beside her, Daniel felt something shift inside him, a lightening of the grief he had carried since Sarah's death, a sense that perhaps their little family could expand to include new connections, new sources of light. As they watched the last lanterns disappear into the night sky, Aunt Lynn approached, having enjoyed the festival on her own. "Time for ice cream before heading home," she suggested to Maya, who responded with enthusiastic agreement. With a knowing glance at Daniel, Lynn added, "Why don't you two take a walk? Maya and I will meet you at the car in 20 minutes. Left alone, Daniel and Iris strolled along the riverside path, the festival lights creating a warm glow around them. "She's remarkable," Iris said after a comfortable silence. "So perceptive, so full of light. You've done an amazing job with her." "She makes it easy," Daniel replied. "Even in our darkest days after Sarah died, Maya found ways to create beauty." They stopped at a quiet overlook, watching the reflection of festival lights shimmer on the water below. "Do you regret it?" Iris asked suddenly, her question hanging in the night air between them. Daniel felt his body freeze, the unexpected question taking him back to that morning in her kitchen when everything had begun to unravel. The question she'd asked then, with coffee mug trembling slightly in her hand, as the world closed in around them. He understood now what she was really asking, not about that night, but about everything that had followed. The career change, the public scrutiny, the leap of faith into this new chapter. "Never," he replied simply, with the certainty that comes from knowing exactly who you are and what matters most. Not for a moment. Iris's smile and response held a warmth that had nothing to do with the festival lights. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the river flow beneath them, carrying reflections of light toward the distant horizon. As they walked back to meet Maya and Lynn, Daniel realized that life rarely gives us perfect choices, only the opportunity to act with integrity in imperfect situations. That rainy night hadn't changed the world, but it had changed the way they chose to live in it. And for now, that was enough. Thank you for joining us for this story about integrity, connection, and finding light in unexpected places. If you enjoyed Single Dad Drove His Drunk Boss Home, please support Mr. Stephen Love Stories by liking, subscribing, and sharing with others who might need this message. Your engagement helps our community grow. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from and which part of Daniel and Iris's journey resonated with you most. Until next time, remember that sometimes our most human decisions, even the ones that come with consequences, lead us exactly where we need to be.